to Chatz with Charnie. I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks so much for coming back to the channel. Please, if you have not yet, subscribe and click on that notifications bell. This week, I actually made a video in response to a comment that I got from a faithful viewer. I will just show that over here. Thank you so much. Today's topic is all about my experience, how I got my job in the United States, and what was the visa process, what was the visa that I used to get there. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. So my journey actually starts all the way in Ireland. So if you're new to the channel, I actually lived in Ireland for a year in 2018 when I was done with my articles in Cape Town. So I moved to Ireland as an assistant manager for one of the big four. And towards the end of my first year there, I just felt that I just wasn't feeling it. Audit wasn't really for me. The country itself, I just felt like the weather wasn't good for me necessarily, and I wanted to make a clean move, like a clean break basically, and anywhere other than Ireland would have been great for me. I then spoke to a fellow colleague and they were like, they're also thinking about moving. They've been, you know, interviewing at places, and I'm like, where are you interviewing? Like, let me in on that information. I also want to know. And then he told me about this company called Cross Country Consulting in the United States that actually takes people from Australia, South Africa, as well as Ireland, and they bring them over on this visa and you get to work there for like 18 months. Or let me rather say for up to 18 months. I then did a bit of research on the company, and the website was basically their clients singing their praises, which was great. But also I knew somebody that worked there. So I found out via LinkedIn that one of my friends and former colleagues in Cape Town actually worked for the company and was there in America with them. I contacted her, asked her what was the culture like, and she basically said this amazing sentence. She was like, they have a no jerk policy. And if you're from audit, you definitely want a no jerk policy at the company that you work for. So I was like, okay, I'm sold, I'm going to apply. I then applied through her, and I don't even think it was a couple of days, and then Cross Country Consulting's human resources or human capital, they contacted me, and then I started my interview process. It was about 4 interview rounds. It wasn't like hectic. There was technical questions because I was going to join the audit support program, and that was going to be for my initial 4 months there. So they obviously had to see my technical capabilities. I also had something called a cultural interview, which was new to me, and I really liked that because they wanted to see if I would fit in with the firm's culture, you know, and that is one of the things that actually stands out about Cross Country Consulting is the amazing culture that they have at the firm. So I passed, and that was amazing. I'm not going to go into too much of my experience with the company and my experience in the United States. I think I'm going to leave that for another video. But the most important thing that I want to get into is the whole visa process, like how I moved from Ireland to the United States, what visa I used, and what were the specific things that was unique to this particular visa. So the visa I went to the United States on was a J1 visa. So this is an exchange visa, and it actually covers quite a few or several categories. One of those categories is traineeship, and that's what I went over as, a trainee. There's also interns, au pairs, and we will be having a video in terms of how to become an au pair in America. So please stay tuned for that. I'm very excited about it. And a few others, agricultural, farming, and all those type of things. But specifically, I went over as a trainee. This meant that I was supposed to go to the United States, stay there for a predetermined amount of time, up to 18 months, learn about the American culture, learn new skills, and basically train in something new in America. For me, this was going to be US GAAP, SOX training, you know, PCAOB training, all of that, and then take those skills to South Africa or any other country and use those skills there within my chosen field, being the CA route. So that's basically what the J1 visa was to me and all the other candidates that went along with me to the United States. Okay, so what are the requirements to get a J1 visa for a trainee? Very simple, and I think a lot of people already meet all of the requirements. It's basically that you have to have a bachelor's degree and at least 1 year of experience in your chosen field outside of the United States, or 5 years of experience in your chosen field outside of the United States. That's basically your requirements. There are no age restrictions, no age limitations in terms of that at all. So basically anyone can apply for it. Another thing about the J1 visa that you need to take note of is after you completed your program in the United States, your 18-month program or your 12-month program, however long your duration is, you are not allowed to go back to the United States on another J1 visa for a 2-year period. So I left the United States, so my training program ended in June, at the end of June 2020. So I am only eligible to apply for another J1 visa in July of 2022. So for the J1 visa, there are 3 important role players. That number 1 is a sponsor. So this is the company that sponsors you to go to the United States. They make sure that your training program has been approved. They make sure that you've been included into the SEVIS system. So that's SEVIS. The SEVIS system. They make sure that you are taken care of during your stay. They make sure that you have insurance as well. That's a very big part of your time in America, that you are covered for any accidents or anything like that. And in this instance, my J1 sponsor was J1 Exchange or J Exchange. The second one is your host organization. So my host organization in this instance was Cross Country Consulting. So they were the company that I was actually doing my traineeship with, or my training program with. They were the one that was paying me. They were the one taking me from Ireland to the United States, right? So that's my host organization. And then obviously the third role player was me, the candidate, the person going from point A all the way to the United States to just indulge in the culture of the United States and learn as much as I could within the time period that I was there for, and then return back home. It's very important that the whole purpose of the J1 program is not that you stay in America indefinitely, but it's that you actually take those skills and you go back to your home country or any other country that you choose to. It is a non-immigrant temporary visa, very similar to the B1, B2 visa in the sense that it is temporary and not permanent. So there are quite a few occupational categories that the J1 visa does cover for the training program. This includes agriculture, tourism and hospitality, finance, information and communications, and a bit more. What I am going to do is I'm going to link a few websites in the description box so that you can see if your specific industry is included within the sphere of the J1 visa. So an important thing is your documents that you receive in order to travel from whichever country you're in to the United States. So 2 of the most important documentations is your DS 2019. That basically says that you are authorized to get a J1 visa by your sponsor. And this is something that your sponsor will mail to you. Another important document is your DS 7002. This is your training program. This is something that can and may change during the course of your traineeship, dependent on which city you move to. For example, I was in Dallas first, but then I went over to New York for 6 weeks, and then after my 4 months of the audit secondment, I then moved over to accounting and advisory in Washington, DC. So because those things changed, my training program had to change. And if anything changes within those 18 months or the time period that you're on your J1, your sponsor has to know. So either you and or your host organization, in my case it was Cross Country Consulting, they will tell the sponsor about any changes and so forth. So as I said, the two most important documents are your DS 2019 and your DS 7002. For the interview process, as well as actually completing your application online, please check out my video on the DS 160 and the interview process and preparing for that. I will put it up here as well as in the description box so you can see a bit more information of what it entails to get that US visa. Now you're probably going to want to ask me, Chanel, what other companies offer J1 visas for chartered accountants or people within the same industry as what I am in? So I cannot tell you for certain which companies do that right now. What I can tell you is the companies that did it back when I was in the J1 program. So that would have been Cross Country Consulting, it would have been SAPRO, so that's SAPRO, and then it's Makosi as well. So please go to these companies' websites, see if they are offering secondments, if they are offering placements to the United States, and if you want to apply for them, make the move. You will never regret the decision of moving to another country, even if it's for a short period of time, because you would have learned a lesson. You know, I didn't necessarily enjoy my time in Ireland completely, but I learned so many lessons about myself, what I'm capable of doing, what I want in life, what I don't want in life, that I don't regret making the move to go there and being there for a full year. So as you know, I'm like your encourager, the person that's always gonna say, if you want to travel, go and do it. So please research companies, see who's going abroad, whether you're want to go to the UK, Australia, the United States, further into Europe. Research and go ahead and make your dreams come true. So you're in America, you're having the time of your life, but let's say something happens back home, or you want to travel to a country that's outside of America. Let's say you want to go to Mexico, you want to go to Europe, you want to go to the Dominican Republic. You basically want to leave the United States. You're going to need a travel authorization document. So this is basically your DS 2019 but with a stamp on it, and for this you're going to have to send it back to the sponsor. You have to mail it to them, and then they might charge you a fee. I remember I had to return back home as my grandmother had passed away while I was in the United States, and I had to send it back, and I think it was $50 that I paid for them to stamp it, sign it, to say that I am authorized to leave the country and to come back into the country, because that's the most important thing. It's okay to leave, it's just that you need authorization to get back in. And I recall during that year that I was in the States, or let's say 18 months that I was in the States, I went to South Africa and I went to France. So I had no problems coming back into the United States on both accounts. It was very smooth, it was very easy to come back as long as I had those documents, because those documents was really important. So travel authorization, for that you'll have to send it back to the sponsor and they'll have to sign it and approve it, and then you'll get it back. Well, that's it for this week's Chats with Charnie. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you get a bit more insight in terms of how you can move over to the United States on a J1 visa. Please go out and do your research, check what companies are out there that are providing these visas to South Africans or whichever country you're coming from. Have an amazing day. All the best with all your travels, and God bless.